melting pot of sleaze, of crime, of prostitution, and carjackings. In the city's Lower East Side, an Asian business is celebrating 25 years in its chosen industry. From humble beginnings to one of the leading players in one of the most difficult, dirty, downright dishonest industries that there is. I'm talking, of course, about advertising and the great Bettyads. Now, this self-righteous bunch of long-haired creative types will be ensuring that the hard-drinking and whoremongering reputation of their industry is maintained. But tonight, instead, we will be looking at what might have been. We will be profiling one of the least successful advertising agencies who also happen to be celebrating a quarter of a century in their business. Now, the following tale is true. By that, I mean it's false. It's all lies, but they're interchained lies. And in the end, isn't that the truth? The answer is no. This is a tale of the lesser-known Bettyads and their struggle for survival. Life under the shadow of the giant. The gut-wrenching, foul-smelling Chinatown is to this day the only similarity between Bettyads and Bettyads. For it is here, amongst the rats, cockroaches, and those scabby little cats with stumpy tails, that both companies opened their doors in 1972. Beatty soon moved to the shop house behind me on An Siang Road, whilst Betty curiously stayed only 100 metres away in the ironically named Unlucky Plaza. Steve Betty, the founder of Bettyads, was born in Uganda in 1938, of Yugoslavian and Nicaraguan parentage. He spent most of his early life breathing and pulling off the legs from frogs. In the 40s, his father and mother joined the Navy, and they sent little Steve to live with his evil godmother, Electric Shock, in Aberdeen, in Scotland. Electric Shock takes up our story in this rare piece of recorded footage from the 1920s.
Oh, hi. Stevie was a lovely wee bairn. He stayed with me from when he was a wee boy. And he was always going to go into the advertising, or so I thought, because he was very interested in science and chemistry. He was always out planting trees in the garden and flowers. He was very popular and very honest. So I always knew advertising would be for him. The right thing to do, you know. I'd like more tea.
In the Great War of 1956, Steve bought an ostrich and took on a perilous journey. In Iraq, he met an Arab.
I was an Arab then, and I am an Arab now. We Arabs love advertising. So Steve, he became my friend. I bring him into my tent. I show him my wives. I water his ostrich. He make me some great advertising for my camels. If you want a good set of humps, smoke camel. So simple. It was brilliant.
Sales of camel rocketed throughout the Arab kingdom, but Betty was forced to flee after a fatwa was put on him by the Marlboro Man.
Marlboro Man, one mean motherfucker. Marlboro Man, one mean motherfucker.
For 40 days and 60 nights, Steve drove his ostrich until he hit the small fishing port of Singapore, where he took refuge in the home of Sir Stamford Raffles.
Betty, Steve Betty, yes, I remember him well. Came into my office in 1967, it was January. Extraordinary fellow, riding an ostrich. One of the Nubian variety. Hadn't seen it since I was in Iraq in 1932. Unusual people, those Nubians. And what they do to their ostriches, you wouldn't believe. Quite remarkable. And how they ever found their way to Iraq, it's a long story, but basically it relates to the ostrich egg. An unusual egg, the ostrich egg. It's the second largest in captivity. Only the kiwi bird produces an egg that is larger in relation to its body weight. And anyway, he did remarkably well with that egg, Mr. Betty. Remarkably well. Would there be anything more?
Betty ran out of the Raffles offices with the Batam International Airlines account under his arm. It was then just a fledgling airline. However, it was a start, and it was an opportunity for Betty to put his enormous advertising prowess to good use.
Time, we had the youngest fleet because we had no airlines at all. Well, Betty came in and did some initial ads for us, saying that since we had no aircraft, then they had not been born yet, and hence we had the youngest fleet. Well, many people came in and booked flights with us, and we made about £2 million in advance bookings. But when all the money was in, we packed up, closed the company, and did a runner. Well, all I can say is, without Betty, all of this would not have been possible.
And so after 2 months and leaving a host of unpaid bills, Batam Airlines, the agency's first account, was to leave. Little really changed over the next 15 years, with the exception of Betty doing some ads for the Dry Goods Guild and the odd dodgy restaurant. Some of Betty's early work won many awards, like this poster here for the Danger Organisation, a concept so brilliantly original that we still see it used around us today. This is all that remains of the once proud Betty house. But things weren't always this bleak. In 1980, Betty teamed up with UK ad man Slick-Nose Fuckall. He had custodianship of the Mars business and the Papua New Guinea tourist board. Betty and Nose Fuckall started developing tourist advertising for the little visited planet and the small Pacific country. Nose Fuckall takes up the story.
Well, that's right. I mean, I think looking back retrospectively at the whole situation as it was back then, the two accounts that you mentioned, there's no doubt in my mind that the one that was most tricky was the Mars business, because Mars were so far away. We used to spend about well, millions and millions of pounds rocketing off to see them, and it used to take about 4 years just to go visit the client, which was a bit tricky. But I remember Steve at that time was coming up with some amazing scripts. It was probably his heyday in advertising. And I remember one in particular for Mars, which was, he wrote this great jingle, and it went something like, there's no air 'cause you can't breathe, there's no water, you can't swim, there's no sunshine, you can't get a tan, there's no food, it's dusty and 2 billion miles away. And that was the sort of song. And then it was great. The finish was bloody marvellous. He had some guy, right, came up, straight voiceover, and he pointed to the camera and he just said, now what's that you were saying about wanting an adventure holiday with a difference? And it was wonderful, it really was. The whole thing just worked. It was a proposition, it was there for everybody. It was I think the Martians were really pleased with that one, do you know? I really do. I think we won the pet food business, if I'm not mistaken, on the strength of that one and that one alone, I'd say. It was wonderful, wonderful commercial, wonderful.
Bettyads, we really love those people. In fact, their campaign was so good, we gave them our dog food, pet food business.
But after racking up $8 trillion worth of taxi fares between the agency and the client, and taking a hit on 2 big budget commercials, Betty lost the business to an agency based on Saturn.
From my point of view, we were looking at a situation where I think Mars at that stage were looking for an agency that could give them a bit more mid-galactic experience. And really, you know, the agencies in Saturn at that time were bloody marvellous. They were running rings around the competition. Every D&AD annual from the Galaxy, they were winning all the golds and gongs and everything. And we really realised that based out in Earth, we just weren't in the region and we needed to be. And we felt that we'd lose the business eventually, and sure enough, we did. And it was quite a sad time for all of us. We were left quite desolate and penniless, and it was a very sad time for me and the agency, and I think Steve took it particularly badly.
We're really lucky to have with us one of Singapore's leading ad men, Andy Clark from Saatchi & Saatchi. Andy, Steve Betty, the man, the legend.
Mate, he was yesterday's ad man as far as I was concerned. He was never any good, he never will be any good. His ads were full.
So you're saying he was not very good?
Pretty much so, actually, yeah.
Well, there you have it, the voice of the expert from the horse's mouth.
Hi, welcome to Australia. Yeah, we've heard of this Steve Betty guy. He was here a couple of years, yeah, maybe 10 years ago. He was only here for a little while. I actually think a baby ate his dingo. But then where did that guy get to?
The spiralling downward trend continued throughout the 80s, culminating in the disastrous partnership with Barings Bank and this controversial but multi-award winning press campaign. This ran to much mirth on the very day that Leeson evacuated his office. Betty was forced to close shop. Today, Betty refuses to talk to the media and lives the life of a hermit. He shuns publicity, and he shuns guys like us who like making documentaries about him. His ostrich has died, and he is lonely, poverty-stricken, and according to industry rumour, he has run out of underpants. Slick-nosed Fuckall has moved on to head up a new agency focusing on the relaunch of Morse telegraphy. He's also trying to convince Ford to adopt their earlier colour policy of any colour just so long as it's black. The tragic story of Bettyads, an agency that, who knows, may one day rise again from the ashes to win a new gong, another award, or maybe even a new client. My name is The Presenter. Good night.
I ain't gonna walk, baby.